Zombie games have hit a bit of a lull nowadays. Sequels to beloved games like Dying Light 2 and Dead Island 2 are mediocre at best, while indie games, with some being innovative and unique, are far and few between. My journey with zombie games began with Black Ops 2,
Epic fail.
which I can say without any bias at all has the best zombies mode ever. This infatuation eventually led me to Dead Island, which is still an underrated gem to this day. Again, there's no bias here. Anyways, that's all old school stuff. We're in the future now, old man. We have VR! With games like Arizona Sunshine and Saints and Sinners, we can now be in the world of zombie games. And who wouldn't want that? Well, during one of my mindless scrolls through Reddit to take my mind off of our inevitable end, I saw an ad for Requisition VR. Looking at the description, it said that it was inspired by Dead Rising. Now, I only vicariously played Dead Rising 3 through Vanoss Gaming, but it was always the coolest game out there, being able to create weapons with pretty much anything. Now, with the very nature of VR, the potential with interactability went through the roof, cause well, you're there and you can pick up anything. But at that time, the game wasn't fully released yet, and also I had other things to deal with, so I waited until it eventually fully released. And when that happened, I just had money burning a hole in my pocket, so I bought it. Now, before we begin, I'm gonna attempt a speedrun. A speedrun to tell you to subscribe to my channel as fast as possible. Only 21.9% of my viewers are subscribed, so make sure you subscribe. Look, it's a graph showing that my subs increase when I tell people to subscribe. YouTube has a weird glitch where people unsubscribe, so make sure you subscribe to never miss my content. Meet Requisition VR, a game where you fight zombies in a universe where Garden of Banban never existed. Without the enlightening event that was the release of the Banban's party mug, the world fell into chaos, and zombies started sprouting where the dead once rested. I think that's how the game went anyways. You are tasked with being the main character in a zombie game, and thus you have to do literally everything by yourself. Luckily, you're armed with an endless roll of Flex Tape brand duct tape, and a hammer that rivals Mjolnir. True to his moniker as a Dead Rising spiritual successor, you can use these tools to create pretty much whatever you want. Creating inventions from the sane to the equally insane was definitely the highlight of the game. I also love how when I made my own weapons, I just made them 10 times less effective. I now know that taping a knife to a katana doesn't actually make a stronger katana, it just makes a worse knife. While the mechanic of crafting your weapon is fantastic, it means nothing if you can't use them on anything, just like in real life. Luckily, there are willing zombies that volunteer to have their brains splattered across the pavement. Unfortunately, they may be the most terrifying zombies in any single game ever. Listen, I'm a pretty brave guy, alright? I cleared doors on Roblox, and I only closed my eyes for half of it. But the zombies in Requisition VR?
Scary ass bastard.
It's not just the medium of VR though, I can play Saints and Sinners just fine. The zombies there are totally okay with, and I'm not scared of them. But something about the realistic sounds and graphics of Requisition just makes it so much worse. But luckily, we can kill them. But that also leads to my second problem. The combat is just a bit janky. The zombies sort of act like those bounce up inflatable bowling pins, and it doesn't feel too satisfying to bash their skulls in, when normally I find so much pleasure in bashing skulls in. Most of the problems come from the zombies who act like they're on that gas station weed. I guess it makes sense because they're mentally deficient zombies who are suffering from a lack of Apelia bird, but it makes it hard for me to kill them when they're more oiled up than a 90s movie star. Also, most of my weapons don't feel real. I know I'm in a video game and all, but they don't have that simulated weight that other VR games have. For example, take the axe. There's not a satisfying chunk as you chop into a zombie's head, you actually just kinda slash them. Back to the crafting, as I said before, it is just amazing. My favorite creation was attaching a saw to another saw attached to another saw, creating a thingamajig that confused both me and the zombies. One thing I would recommend is an amendment to the crafting interface. Right now, when you're holding a weapon, you hold down a button to show points of contact that you can attach weapons to. That's fine and all, but if you're holding a component of a special weapon, which are weapons with specific recipes, it highlights that instead of the normal menu. So if you try to attach anything else, it gets all whack. I think the special crafting interface should be separated from the normal crafting interface. Maybe you have to press an additional button in tandem with the crafting menu button so you can see the special weapons. So now, let's talk about the actual game. As of now, aside from the crafting system, there just isn't much to the game. The game so far has 4 maps, but a majority of them are as follows. Walk around the map, look for some small vital item in the map stored in your inventory, which for some reason shares the same inventory as your normal one, and then explore more to find a location and place said item in the slot. Then, you have to survive a couple of waves of zombies, and then you win. Granted, there are certain crafting stations that allow you to make traps and bombs, but they're honestly more trouble than they're worth. and it's usually better to just use an axe rather than spend 10 minutes breaking down things to get parts to make those things. Well, other than that, there's unfortunately not much to do other than play around with friends, and therein lies the problem. I feel like this game relies heavily on the multiplayer aspect, where you separate for a couple of minutes and come back with something completely wacky, but since I played both Genshin and League of Legends, I had to rely on the server browser, of which there were no servers. Keep in mind, this was within the week of the game's full release, and there are no servers for me to join. I feel like after all that though, I really do need to reiterate that I love this game. The feeling of creating a drill on a stick and then peeking over some boards is something that just can't be replicated in any other VR game. However, it definitely needs some polish in some areas. If it had that and just a smidge more stuff to do, then I would have no problem considering it one of the best VR games of all time. As of now though, I'm gonna stick with my totally superior VR games, like Super Hot VR. I love how you can just slow down time and shoot bad guys.
Few inches later.
I don't think this is the right game.